So today I have a story for you guys that comes from my previous campaign. In this campaign, it was a party of 3 players. Harris, the human paladin, Misery, the half-orc barbarian, Olaire, the Tortle wizard. Yes, his name was Olaire. And yes, many Sumbro jokes were made. So we're going to pick up roughly 3-4 months into the campaign. Players, which all started at level 1, 6 at this point. And through the game, they'd acquired a very powerful magic item, the Deck of Many Things. Now, it's worth noting that while you may be familiar with the Deck of Many Things, you're not familiar with my Deck of Many Things. I like to take magic items and make them my own. That way, things are never the same. Especially for seasoned players, people that have seen these magic items before that know how they work. This adds a little extra flavor to the game. It makes my world just a little bit more unique. But this Deck of Many Things was insane. I made so many fun little cards. It was a 60 card deck, which I know by itself horrifying, but each card was a sort of monkey's paw thing. Something good may happen, but something bad is definitely going to happen. Most cards caused more harm than they did good, which kind of discouraged the players from using it too much. However, there were a few cards that were wholly good, and what they gave the players made it worth the risk. And I made sure that the players knew that cards like that were in there. One card, which was relatively neutral, I labeled it in my notes as Turn to Pixie, which you can imagine what that might do. Now, my players decided that they were going to split the deck up. It was a 60 card deck, there were 3 players, everybody gets a deck of 20. So it's like, okay, cool. And in my notes, I figured out who had what cards in each deck. And Olaire ended up with the Turn to Pixie card. Now, Olaire decided he wanted to do something fun. So let me set the scene of where the players are when everything happened. Now, the players had wound up in a city that I created in the Feywild. I think it was called Leroy, the City of White, or something like that. The players found themselves there, surrounded by these wholly good creatures. Not like wholly good angels, but like these were good-aligned creatures, and they were beautiful. The absolute perfect version of what you would expect each of them to be. Like, the halflings there, perfect halflings. Like, you never would have seen a better looking halfling. The fairy folk there, marvelous. The whole thing behind that was that there was a Kieran in the city, but that's a story for another time. The players find some lodging for the night in the city, kind of off and in the park. They set up shop in this cabin and start resting up. Olaire goes outside the cabin, and he pulls out his deck. He looks at me and says, I draw a card. Okay, you draw a card. Roll me a d20. Because he had 20 cards in his deck, I'd assigned each card a number value to a d20, and he rolled. He rolled another fun card, which I didn't make this one up. I just took this one. I'm pretty sure it came from an older edition, but the card he drew said he gets to steal a level from another player and give it to a random player. He himself could also be the target of losing a level. So it's like random player loses a level, random player gains a level. And it was perfect because Harris, the human paladin, lost a level. Misery, the barbarian, gained a level. And it was just beautiful. They had no idea what was going on, but out of nowhere, Harris was in this terrible pain. He felt so weak. And 2 seconds before that happened, Harris and Misery were just having a conversation. As I understand it, Misery was just about to play a practical joke on Harris, and so walked into his room and said, Harris, what? I'm gonna do a thing. What are you gonna do? Just don't be mad, okay? And at that second, the minute she said don't be mad, he drew the card and the level swap happened. It was an awesome interaction. Olaire could hear the scream outside and decided to run. And so he did. And he drew another card along the way. This one is the story card. So he draws the next card, turn to Pixie. So I explain how he starts to shrivel up. First his arms shrink in. So he's got little baby Tortle arms. And then his legs shrink in. So he's got little baby Tortle legs. And then his head shrinks down. And then his torso shrinks down until all you can see is the Tortle shell. You can't actually see him. And eventually the shell starts to sparkle and glimmer and slowly fades away. And inside is a pixie. Just the little pixie fairy folk. No idea what happened. He gets up and he looks around. And he realizes that he's not his good Tortle self anymore. And so he kind of checks himself out, makes sure he still has all of his stuff. And I'm like, yeah, you still have everything that you had on you as a Tortle. It's just all been resized to fit your new shape. Even your non-magical items have been resized to fit your new shape. But I tell him he does find something interesting. In his pocket, he finds a letter. And the letter said, "Please don't be late this time. Meet me at the hollow tree." Signed, Farah. What I had essentially done was that card switched his body with a fairy folk's body. So somewhere out in the world, a pixie is just turned into a Tortle and has no idea what happened. And Olaire has his body. I thought it would make a really fun and interesting quest, but we never got to it. Because Olaire, he makes rash decisions, and he likes a little bit of chaos. And later in the game, he came across a magic item. Bag of beans. Now the bag of beans, it's a percentile thing. You plant them, pour some water on them, roll percentile, see what happens. Now I've seen people use this magic item and pre-roll everything to figure out what can happen. I thought it would be more fun if I improv it. And I stand by that decision. I think that was amazing. Olaire waits a couple of sessions as a pixie, never even mentions the note to anybody. He plants a bean. Okay? Roll percentile. He rolled a 100. So what 100 does is it grows a vine. Think like Jack and the Beanstalk. It's a beanstalk, grows to who knows what. The DM gets to decide. Can be a Cloud Giant's castle, can be another plane of existence. So Olaire jumps on and starts climbing to see where it goes. The other players are like, well, we were on the main quest line, but this is here now. So let's go climb that and see where it leads. So the NPCs follow. Meanwhile, I'm sitting there thinking, yes, I had prepared for this. I know where this beanstalk goes. It goes, somewhere. And it took me a second. But then I remembered, I have a beautiful, beautiful creation. You see, in my world, I've created my own pantheon. And one god I have is Golrath, a demigod of madness, who has taken a shining to the party. And if the party is using a chaotic item that is letting them travel to who knows where, I thought it would be perfectly reasonable that it would take them straight to Golrath. So, they climb up this beanstalk. I tell them, you guys start climbing through the clouds. It gets a little chilly, but not so cold that you can't continue. And after maybe 30 minutes of climbing, you hear the glorious sound of kazoos playing. And they all looked at me because they all knew what that meant. They started climbing down, and I described as the people who were lowest on the beanstalk started to climb down directly into the people who were highest on the beanstalk. They were looping. And after a second, some of the clouds kind of parted, and they could see one of those old clawfoot bathtubs with a shower curtain drawn, the shower head going off, and they're pretty sure that the sound of kazoos was coming from that. After a second, the shower head stops. They see the curtain open up, and there they see the bare behind of Golrath. Just freshly showered. He's nice and soggy. He seems very happy. He opens his eyes, sees the party, lets out the girliest scream I could do, grabs a towel and covers up his chest region, leaving his lower half exposed, because I thought that'd be funny, and it was. To me, anyway, the party did not seem to appreciate that they had to deal with this guy now. Because, God of Madness is not generally something you want to run into. But they have. They're in his domain now. And they're stuck with him until he's done with them. So he tries to figure out how he can play with them because they've barged in on him on his shower. What's he supposed to do? Let them leave? No. So what he ends up doing is he takes them and throws them into his world that he's created. And says, okay, I've got some puzzles for you. It's going to be a great time. You finish the puzzles, and maybe you can get some cool loot and leave. Maybe. If I don't think of anything else fun to do. Anyway, have fun. So they wind up in this little field area. There's a nice babbling brook, and immediately on the other side of this brook is just ice and snow, a perfect tundra. The players also notice that they are alone. They look around, they only see themselves. Down by the river, they see a table with halflings. One's fishing, one's running around, just kind of having fun by himself. A few are eating from a picnic basket, and one I think was chasing a butterfly. I don't remember, this was a while ago. Each of them sees this. They see the halflings, they see the tundra just across the river, and they see this warm, luscious field that they're standing in. And they start walking over, and they try to figure out my puzzle that I've created for them. And while they're trying to figure it out, Olaire walks over to the river, and I look at him and I wait, because I know what he was about to do. Now, I had written that this river would sweep away anybody who touches it, because I'm mean like that. So he reaches down and he tries to scoop up some water to take a drink. I say, okay, make me a dexterity save. He looks at me like, what? Make a dex save. See if you get swept away. I'm just dipping my hand in it. Yes, this is God of Madness. So he rolls, and he rolls a 3. So he gets swept away in the current as a pixie. The current takes him incredibly far, incredibly fast. He winds out in a deep ocean. And I tell him how he feels something in the water, a terrible presence. He looks around, tries to figure out what's going on. He looks down and he sees a shadowy figure coming upon him. As it gets closer, where the water gets clearer, he can see it, and he knows what it is. It is an aboleth, but it's different. It's wearing a white collar and a black bow tie. And as it breaches the surface in front of Olaire, it goes to pick him up, and it goes to attack him as it picks him up. When Gorath appears. Charles, you can't be treating our guest so cruelly. Please, send him on his way. I will feed you later, Charles. Gorath has an aboleth named Charles. So Charles throws Olaire back in the direction he came from at the order of his master. And Olaire kind of skips on the water a little bit before coming to a stop. Gorath comes up next to him and tells him, look, you made it all the way out here on your own. You can make it back on your own. Have a nice swim. Don't be too long. So Olaire's like, okay, fine. That's fine. I'll get back in no time. And he climbs out of the water, starts to hover. Over the ocean in front of a God of Madness, like, I've beaten your puzzle. I can fly. Gorath didn't like this, so he snapped his fingers, and the wings were gone, and he splooshed back into the water. I'll give those back when you're back on land. Olaire was not happy, but he dealt with it and started swimming back. On his way back, he remembered he had a bag of beans, the same ones he used to get here, and so he took one out. And he thought, how can I plant this right now? And he opens up his bag of holding, and he looks around, and he finds a jar of dirt that he gathered as a joke, but now it's about to come in handy. So he takes that jar of dirt, and he puts the bean in it. And then he puts the jar of dirt under the water, opens the lid to water the bean. Now, the magic item specifies that the bean has to be planted and watered. And that's it. It doesn't have to be in soil on ground. It just has to be in dirt, in water. So I'm like, okay, that technically qualifies, I guess. And the bean starts to grow. I tell him, okay, roll percentile. And he rolls something that's just amazing. He rolls a pyramid. The bean grows into a pyramid with a mummy lord inside with loot. Loot to match a pyramid mummy lord. So I'm thinking, please don't go in there. You know what he does? He goes into it. I tell him, okay, cool. Let me describe this real quick. And I describe how the contents of his jar seem to change into sand and swirl from the lid up. The jar itself grows heavy. It feels almost like lead, and it starts to sink to the bottom of the ocean. That sand starts to grow. It expands, and you can see little stones start forming in it. As it does so, those stones come together, forming a small pyramid that grows in size and goes to land on the nearest ground. But there is no ground. You're in the middle of the ocean. And so it does what it has to do, and it pulls water from the ocean to form clouds for it to sit on. So I have this pyramid floating on clouds, floating on the ocean. So I think, okay, cool. That's really cool. Olaire agrees and decides he's going to climb into it. So I say, okay, you are at the mouth of the pyramid. I go into the pyramid. You go into the pyramid. All right, cool. And he walks in. He declares he's stealthing in. Good idea. So I have him roll stealth. And he rolls pretty well, especially since he's a pixie. He rolls really well. And he sneaks in. And since this was something I was trying to improv, I didn't have time to build a proper pyramid dungeon. So he walks down, and it's immediately just the main chamber, with the mummy lord on the other side of the room, and just a giant vault of treasure. I tell him that from on the left wall there are these small piles of gold and gems and platinum. On the left wall there are these rows of books and strange items. But in the middle of the room, the very middle of the room, that really catches his eye. There's a large carpet that's got what looks to be a brass lamp. He says, okay, I think I can make this. I'm going to stealth to the lamp. And I look at the player. It's like, do you know what that is? Player's like, yep. Does your character know what that is? Roll Arcana. And he rolls. And he knows what it is. So I'm like, okay, cool. So as long as your character knows, I can't call it metagaming. So it's fine. So he goes over to it. He stealths over to it. It's an Afridi bottle. Now, an Afridi bottle, if you don't know, it's like Genie's lamp from Aladdin. You rub it, a djinn comes out, and it's going to do one of three things. It's either going to attack you on sight, it's going to help you, but not necessarily grant you any wishes for like an hour, I think, or it's going to just straight up wish time. And I was getting ready, because I was expecting with Olaire's luck, he was about to get the wishes, so I was getting ready to do my best Robin Williams impression. I was going to sing Never Had a Friend Like Me, but no, he rolled really low on that percentage, and he summoned a djinn that did not like him very much. He summoned an Afridi that wanted to kill him. And so an initiative roll was had. The Afridi went first, took a swing and a miss, and then Olaire decided to cast a spell. He decided he was going to cast a firebolt at the Afridi from the direction of the Mummy Lord to make it look like the Mummy Lord was attacking the Afridi. I thought, okay, that's odd, but if that's what you want to do, I had the Afridi roll an insight check to see where the spell came from. He rolled a 19, and I figured that was good enough to know that, yes, it's you that's casting that magic at me, not him. Not that his firebolt was going to do anything. Again, this is a level 6 wizard, so there's not really much I can do. Next up was the Mummy Lord. The Mummy Lord was just sitting on his throne, looking at this, just thinking to himself, really? This? Okay. And he didn't do anything. He didn't have to do anything. The Afridi gets to go again. He did not miss this time. He just did an immediate 38 damage because I gave him an enchanted sword because I thought that would be fun. Olaire tried again to make the Afridi think that the Mummy Lord was attacking him. It did not work. The Afridi struck him down and ate him. I mean that literally. The Afridi, after knocking out Olaire, picked him up by his foot and swallowed him. It was sad, kind of funny, and just a really dumb way to die. Like, why would you do that? I mean, fair. It is fair. It's only like a 10% chance that the Afridi would be hostile to you from an Afridi bottle. But still, that's probably not a place that you as a character should go alone, just into a pyramid. Probably not somewhere you should go. But he did. And he died for it. Anyway, that's the story I wanted to tell you of the time I had a Tortle turn into a Pixie. I may bring that quest back again eventually. I don't know yet, though. If I do, I'm going to have to find another way that I'm going to implement it because none of my players are touching any magic cards that I throw at them anymore. So, yeah. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this story. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, let me know. I'll be happy to get back to you. And if you've got any stories of your own, let me know. I would love to hear them. Anyway, until next time, I hope you have a really nice day.